We're in business. Okay, how many times have you in the room spent days working on the perfect proposal, right? You're really excited about it. This is something that is going to definitely revolutionize your client's business, and you send it out expecting an enthusiastic response. Nothing. How many times have you spent ages writing up the requirements for a client's new perfectly tailored system, but when you tell them about the budget they'll need to achieve it, how often have you spent so much time working on the details of a project that when it is fully scoped out and the time has finally come to get it signed off, they've completely lost interest? There is a fundamental truth that I've observed when I'm selling a software development project, and that is simply this: time kills deals. Simply put, the longer it takes to get sign-off on a project, the less likely it is to happen. It is inevitable. Some projects are going to take longer to put together than others, but because they're going to be more complex. But the longer it takes, the harder you have to work to maintain momentum and to keep the client's focus. So you get speed bumps in the way, right? The longer it takes to write a proposal, the more opportunities there are for speed bumps to be introduced. Things like project over-specification. Are we familiar with this, right? The client decides that they want to start adding new things and get lots and lots of detail in there before they sign it off. Wanting to explore off-the-shelf solutions midway through the project. Going, oh yeah, my mate Sandra's heard about this thing that's definitely going to do everything we need this to do. Never happens. Revising budgets, so perhaps budgets have changed in the time that you're scoping out the project, reprioritizing projects because something else more important's just come in. Change of client personnel is a killer if anyone's had that. The project stakeholder changes midway through. The new guy comes in, he's got a great idea for a new system that he's used before, and then bins the project. But probably the most fatal of all of these potential speed bumps is the project scope creep. I'm sure we've all had various versions of the following responses. Oh, there was something I forgot to mention earlier. This is once you've delivered the proposal, right? Oh, I've just thought of some edge cases to our process. We really need this to work on Android. Or my favorite, Derek's had some new ideas. Now, we know that all of these can slow a project down, and I'm pretty sure that we all feel the same way about them. They're infuriating. So in this talk, Rob and I are going to be looking at some ways that we've used AI to remove some of these potential speed bumps. But before we get into that, it's probably worth explaining, who are we? Right, I am Mark, and this is Rob from We Know Data. Rob, tell us about We Know Data.
We Know Data was founded in 2012 in my front room in a small flat in London. We're now a team of 14 internally, but we also work with 16 Claris partners we call associates, which gives us an incredible array of skills that we couldn't have ourselves, so we love that. Next year, we will 50% of our internal staff will have been with us for 10 years, which, considering we're only 13 years old, is great. It's always tricky to talk about yourself, so we thought we'd do it a bit differently. We're going to introduce each other, so over to you, Mark.
Okay, so that was Rob. He's the CEO of We Know Data. He has a degree in computer science from Loughborough University and has worked in FileMaker for almost 20 years, which for a lot of people in this room makes him a noob. Rob is also a Claris Council member, which I love the sound of because I imagine it's like the Jedi Council just with more admin. And he joined the Helm Business Growth Club in January 2025, which is basically a meeting of business leaders in London who provide brutally honest assessments on your business model to each other, which Rob described as like going to the dentist, in that it hurts like hell, but it's actually good for you. Personally, Rob is married with 3 children. They are 9, 7, and 3, 2 boys and a girl. He's lived in London for 16 years. He moved to a farm 3 years ago in the English countryside. He loves sport, troublingly. He loves running. He's done 2 London marathons. Different dates, just to be clear, not back to back. Loves running, skiing, tennis, all of that stuff, and loves being outdoors, as you can see there. Look, they're all delighted to be outdoors. That's Rob.
Well done, Mark. So Mark's been doing FileMaker since 1999. He doesn't look that old. He joined We Know Data in 2015 after we met in Reading in 2014 at an event like this. I actually should click these. He started off with us as a senior developer, but over time became more of a technical commercial lead for us. And in 2022, he became a shareholder of We Know Data due to all the great work he does. He also is a former stand-up comedian, which makes him terrifying to talk next to. He has 3 children like I do, but his children are also neurodivergent. I know how hard it is for 3 children, and he does an incredible job. He also finds the time to do a podcast, which I highly recommend. In fact, that's a QR code for it if anyone wants to have a look at it. It's very good for parenting tips generally, but also if you're neurodivergent or you have neurodivergent family members, really, really good. Oh, no. That's my fault, Mark.
All right, no worries. Okay, so in this session, we are going to show you how we've been using AI to turbocharge the time it takes from initial call to project sign-off. So we're going to talk through the journey we've been on in the last 18 months to address the issues that we encountered, and hopefully some of you guys are familiar with. And we're going to explain the AI tools and processes that we've used to make all of this possible. Now, to illustrate this, obviously, we could just show examples of stuff we've done on here, or we could do something insanely risky. And I have a feeling that you're going to want to see the risky one. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and do something in real time for you. So I want to take suggestions from the audience for somebody to be a client for a very high-level brief for a system, and then we're going to build the prototype and show it at the end. Inadvisable? Yes. Exciting? Yes. So, firstly, have we got any, put your hands up if you can be the client in this situation and tell me a little bit about your business. It's not going to be painful. Does anyone want to be a client? Okay, you, sir. Brilliant. You're very enthusiastic, and I love to see it. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to need a very brief company overview. What do you do?
We create documents for the selling of houses for the notary.
For houses. So you create documents for the selling of houses.
For the notary. The notary needs documents for the selling of the house.
Okay, so the notary accesses, so if we're going to build a client portal for you, okay, so the notary needs to be able to access this. Does anyone else need access to it? The house seller, for example, or the buyer?
Well, I was thinking about the start with, like, the problem that we have is we get those mails from the client.
Absolute madness, yes, you're right.
We wanted to create an order out of that.
Okay, so it's a document sign-off process, basically. Okay, perfect. So, so what products or services, so you oversee the selling of the houses and all the documents, and I presume there are lots of different documents that need to be signed in order. And so is it a sequential order? Is it like, this one needs to happen, or is it just as and when?
The notary, they will say we need for a risk document, we need stages from the city document.
Yeah. Risk document, stages from the city document. I'm repeating you so that this can be picked up by Rob, who's doing that. Okay, so the notary then logs in and he does all of that, and people need to be able to comment on these documents? Do they need to add notes to these documents?
No, we put all the regulations, the legal regulations for that document, for that piece of land that's going to be sold.
Okay, fine. So if we were going to build a portal for you, it would be for a notary to be able to access a specific property. I'm imagining that notaries would be looking after a number of different properties variously, so they would need to log on, see all the properties in their list, click on that property, see the documents that are needed within that, be able to request a document from you, maybe send a notification, a reminder to say, can you provide this document? Am I correct there? We're going to high level here. We're going really high level. Okay. And then they log in and they maybe see a dashboard. Rob loves a dashboard. With reminders of things that are outstanding. And
Yes, because we didn't get an answer.
perfect. Okay, so if we can build that for you in the next half an hour. Yeah, let's go. Happy with that?
Yeah, nice easy one. Thanks, Mark. Thanks very much.
Okay, so we've got the process flow, the modules. What's your website address? Because we're all going to try and brand it as well. What's your website address? Okay, can you spell that? G-U-R-I-S .fr. You got that, Rob?
That is not G-U-R-I-S.
It doesn't exist. Great. I've picked a real one. Yeah. Do you have? Sorry. Yes. U-R-B-E.
B what?
U-R-B-E. I tell you what, can you go up and put the website address in there? It's a tough crowd, man. Right, okay, while you're doing that...
Just type that. Thank you.
The final question was, do you want it to be web or mobile? I think it's going to need to be web if you're viewing... Oh, mobile? Let's go mobile, because these notaries are on the move. They got lots of things to sign.
Let's make it harder.
I'm going to do it on the bus.
Thank you.
Okay, fine, great. So, how did we get here? I'm going to look at what our sales process used to be, okay? Because I think it's important for you to know where we've come from. Because every company in this room will have their own sales process. But I imagine most of us, if you're doing software development or sort of custom apps, you're going to follow a similar process. Firstly, you need to learn about your client's business need. Then you need to devise a solution. Then you write requirements, put together an estimate, write the proposal, hopefully get sign-off from the client. And once you've done that, the fun bit, you build the thing. Right? That's broadly how it goes. So how did we do it? So initially, we would gather requirements by having a 1 hour consultation call. I'm sure there are similar people in this room that have that 1 hour. That's a really important time. It's a viability check. You need to make sure that you understand what they need and that you can deliver what they need and that they feel like they're serious about it. So that's the initial 1 hour call. Once we've done that and we realize they're a good fit, we would have a 1 day workshop with them. Now, I'm only really talking here for projects over like 100 hours, so bigger projects. We'd probably handle it slightly differently if it was a smaller thing or if it was an enhancement, but if it's a bigger project, we'd have a workshop. And that helps us to really get into what the customer needs and to understand where it fits within their business. And typically, we would do this with 2 people, a workshop. One person was responsible for sort of having the agenda, making sure that we keep on track, asking the right questions, and the other person would be making notes furiously in the background, would be making lots of notes, maybe putting together process flows. We do this using a tool called Miro, which is an interactive whiteboard. If anyone's not used that, it's really good. So by the end of that session, we'd have a good idea of what we think we're going to build. And they might even put an entity relationship diagram together to show how the data's going to all fit together. Then we'd have to write requirements. And a genuine question here, who actually enjoys writing requirements? Probably your notary friend, sir. That's it. It's not fun, but it's really important. The thing is, right, as a developer, as soon as the client starts talking to us, we already kind of know what we're going to do. We know that we can solve their problem, and in our head, we know what we're going to deliver. But it's important to write the requirements down because we need to give the client confidence. They need to be confident that we understand their business needs, and they need to be confident that we can deliver that. So we would write high-level requirements, but in a lot of detail, which is fundamentally not high level, is it? But we would write very detailed requirements outlining exactly what we were going to deliver. Once we've done that, you get to the proposal, right? So with the proposal, you have high-level requirements, you do an estimated cost, you'd have an indication of timeline. Then we would present the proposal. We used to just send it out and then just cross our fingers and hope that it would come back. But we found that presenting the proposal was actually a really good tool because you can interact with them, you can sense how they feel about it when you're doing it, then you can send it on the back of that. We send it to the client, and then the fun bit is wait. Just so much waiting involved. This is the most painful part of the process for me because you feel a bit helpless. You don't know what's going on. It's like when they're electing a pope. You know, and they just like you're just waiting for the smoke to appear. Have they accepted it? I don't know. And I was becoming increasingly aware that this process wasn't very efficient. And I was aware of this because Rob kept telling me this process is not very efficient. And don't get me wrong, it was still working. I would say between 75 and 80% of the projects that we write proposals for were accepted. But it would take a long time, and we wanted to address that. So we went back to the drawing board. We decided to drastically reconsider how we resolve some of the shortcomings of the proposal creation process. Okay, because they were inefficient, you know, so we had a planning day specifically to address this, and we condensed our problems to these core issues. Firstly, it takes too much time to gather the information for the proposal. For some of the larger proposals, we've got 2 people working for at least 2 days each, so that's a minimum of 4 days to put a proposal together. If it's a bigger one, definitely longer than that. I don't know if this is familiar to anyone else or if we were just going absolutely crazy in how we were doing it, but that's what we were doing. It would also take too long to turn a proposal around because it's dependent on, firstly, the 2 people that had run the workshop that need to coordinate. Also, the cooperation of the client is really important at that point, because if they're not able to answer questions, then it slows things down. So it was taking us anything between 2 weeks was absolute best case scenario, but I think only ever happened once. And sometimes 2 months to get a proposal out. The other thing is that we were losing money on proposals. I'm sure that we've all considered this. You spend so much time and you don't want to ask the client up front. Sometimes we did if we felt it was the right thing, but very often we're doing this without a charge. So we were treating it like a loss leader. So if the project is signed off, that's okay because you can recoup that in the budget for the actual project. If it doesn't go ahead, we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money and crucially, a lot of our expertise in something that doesn't even get signed off. So it's not ideal. The final thing is that proposals took too long to get a response. In the best case scenario, maybe 1 or 2 months to sign off a proposal. In worst case scenarios, it could take more than 9 months. And I think that if it takes less time to conceive and give birth to a human child than it does to get a proposal out, you're doing something wrong. So it was leading to lost focus and lost momentum, and in case we need reminding, time kills deals. So, given that time is one of the underlying issues there, we discussed how AI was going to be able to resolve some of this. Rob has always been fully invested in AI. He's been aware of the potential uses of AI for years, since it was first introduced, and he's always thought about the impact it would have on the software development industry, as I'm sure many of you have. But not from a position of fear, like, oh, it's going to take our jobs. It's like, well, okay, how can we use it? It's coming, so how can we use it to deliver better results and to help businesses grow? And he encouraged everyone at We Know Data to also explain how AI tools could help. Now, in the background, right, while we were sort of doing our own research, Rob was working on something. I didn't know what. He was regularly meeting up with our web team lead, and every now and again, he would imply that big things were coming, but not actually specify what it was. So it's very much like hearing a mad inventor hammering away in a shed somewhere. And you don't know what the noise is, but you know that whatever's going to come out of it's going to be useful or interesting at the very least at some point. So Rob is doing all that. Meanwhile, me and the rest of the technical sales team are busy using some tried and tested AI tools, which have been around for a while at this point, and I'm sure many of you use these tools or variations of them. The first one was Fathom. Has anyone used Fathom? Hands up if you've experienced Fathom. Yeah, it's an AI note-taking tool, which is great. It's got lots of different features. Video recording, I mean, wasn't the first thing to do that, obviously, but it was really handy because you can record a meeting and then send that to all the participants so the clients can see it as well and refer back to it. You'd also get an AI summary of the call. So it would summarize what happened on that call, give you it in bullet points. So if somebody wasn't able to be on the call, then they could look at the summary and see if they'd missed anything. Another thing was action points assigned to participants, which when that first came out was a bit, oh God, I agreed to do that and I'd forgotten about it. And it tells you what action points are off the back of that call and who it's been assigned to. The other thing it did was create an auto-generated transcript, which was probably the most underwhelming feature at the start, but I think is the most important development out of all of this for us. Fathom generates a transcript of the call, which then means that you can search the different parts of the discussion. But more importantly, you can download that transcript to use in other tools further down the line. And I'll explain what we do with those in a bit. So pretty soon, it became fundamental to everything we did. We used Fathom to record all of our meetings, internal and external. We also felt that we needed to write a company-wide disclaimer on all of our emails and calendar invites to let clients know that we would be recording meetings. And if they had any objections, then let us know and they could opt out. We only ever had one objection from someone who didn't want that. And when we drilled down into why, it was because she didn't like seeing her face on camera. So it was an objection on the grounds of vanity rather than ethics. So we just told her to turn the camera off, and that was fine. Other AI note-taking tools are available, of course. Otter.ai, some of you might use. Fireflies.ai, Copilot as well. So full transparency, we now use Copilot rather than Fathom. Not because it's any better, but because it does pretty much the same thing, but it's free as part of the Office suite. So instantly, we're seeing an improvement using Fathom. It meant that when I'm having a client call, a discovery call with someone, I can focus on the conversation. I'm not having to stop them mid-flow to write notes, which can sometimes happen. And you can really sort of have much more of an informative and engaged conversation with a client because it's being recorded and you can refer back to it later on. And Fathom resolved that. And we also knew that there were other things that AI could do to help. So we looked at improving the project proposals, which were the bane of my life, because I was doing them all the time. And I knew that there could be a better way of doing it. And that is where ChatGPT came in. Because it always took us way too long to put together a proposal document on the back of a workshop. And AI is perfect for this, because especially now we're capturing the transcript in Fathom, there are, again, other AI tools available for this if you need Claude or Genesis, or you might have some of your own examples that you want to use. But ChatGPT was the first one we used. I've had no complaints. It does exactly what we need it to do, so we've stuck with it. So how did we use it? Well, we would upload a transcript of the discovery call. So let's say we've had a discovery call with the client. I'd download the transcript, upload it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT would then summarize what was discussed, which was similar to how Fathom did, but it was better able to answer questions. So you could then say, wasn't quite clear on what they were saying about zero integration. Can you summarize that for me? So it was really useful to be able to kind of to query it a bit more. This then started to provide content for proposals. Now, I need to make clear that it is draft content. I would never just send what ChatGPT says in a proposal. It needs to be vetted. But it helps to create a starting point for you to then go, okay, well, that's the structure of what the proposal needs to look like, and then I can edit it in that way. But it didn't make things any shorter. If anything, ChatGPT made things longer, because ChatGPT, as you know, likes to chat. That's what it does. So things still needed a lot of editing. As such, the draft proposals would not save a massive amount of time, because you'd have to pull out all the jargon and that kind of thing, and you had to edit it for content and make sure the tone matches the We Know Data's tone rather than ChatGPT's very specific style. Then ChatGPT released projects. Yeah, put your hands up if you use ChatGPT projects at all. Yeah, a few of you. That was a game changer for us. So in December 2024, ChatGPT released projects. And if you haven't used it, basically it allows you to group all similar chats within a folder. So I created a project folder specifically to produce the draft proposals on the back of discovery calls. So that basically shows you the instructions that I give it. And they are, that's very, very broad. And basically, you create a generic prompt that applies to anything within that folder. So the first thing you do is to give it a context. So that is, who are we? How are we gathering information, and what do we need from the output? Then you give it a brief for the questions to ask. So then I wanted ChatGPT to prompt any users to upload a transcript of the discovery calls. Also request a sample output document, because not all proposals that we produce are the same. You know, if you produce a proposal for a web portal, that's different from if you're proposing a FileMaker rebuild. So it helps to upload a sample proposal to kind of take as its inspiration before it starts building the draft. Then you also tell it the sections to include in the new output document. So if you see here, we typically have an overview, high-level requirements, assumptions and risks, and then next steps. Again, ChatGPT is really good at coming up with risks that I hadn't thought about as well. Some of them are, not ideal, but again, it's a good starting point. Then you include the style guidelines, which is the tone that we want from the output. And as I say, they're all pretty broad for now, but we can get more specific if we need it to. The beauty of this is that ChatGPT learns from other proposals within the same project folder. So we can refine the process. We can give ChatGPT feedback that I don't quite like the way you did this, or I'd rather you didn't do that, and it learns from it. So over time, it becomes more refined and better able to do what you need it to do quicker, which meant that the output required a lot less editing. So I reckon now we can produce a draft output document within 10 minutes of the original call, because that's all set to go. We just upload the transcript and get it to create all of that content. We do still need to reread the output and make sure it's accurate and clear. It is just a starting point. And we definitely want to avoid what our web team lead describes as ChatGPT slop. But it's a good starting point, and it sped things up significantly. So what was the impact? We've only just started using these AI tools, and already we're seeing immediate gains with the new approach. Less resources required for a start, because typically we would have a workshop with 2 people. It only needs 1 person and a Fathom or a co-pilot, so it's already halving the resource that we need for that specific role, and that was really handy. It took us less time to gather information as well. The time that we took to gather information quartered, because we were using note-taking tools before, because now we're using note-taking tools, and we're only using 1 person rather than 2, we can gather information in 2 hours rather than 8, basically, over a day. It also takes less time to create proposals, which drastically reduced because we're using ChatGPT to create a first draft. So what would take maybe 12 hours was now taking no more than 2 hours from start to finish. And this all led to a quicker turnaround time for clients. So if we planned it right, we could get from the point of turning around a proposal within 4 hours, from initial call to our discovery call to creating the draft and editing it and getting it out in 4 hours. However, there was an elephant in the room. There is an unavoidable truth about our proposals, and I needed to be honest with myself. Our proposals were boring. They were really dry, because we'd be using ChatGPT to speed things up, but the format we were using was exactly the same as it used to be. So we were still routinely creating proposal documents between 20 and 30 pages long. I don't know if anyone else has kind of got around doing that, but it felt like we needed to do that. And for the client, maybe the project stakeholder is interested because they've helped to shape the project as you go along. But to anyone else, they are dry. It is pretty dull to read through. And with larger scale projects, there are always other people involved. It's not just the project stakeholder, because it will have to go to someone else, and they need to read the proposal. And if they have to read 30 pages, it's not going to be top of their to-do list. So things slow down. Here's another point that I think I had to be honest about. I think proposals are more important to us than the client at this point. And there are a number of reasons for that. I think that part of it is that we want to outline in a lot of detail what we plan to deliver so we can cover our back. So if they then request something else, we can say, but that wasn't included in the initial thing. But then you have this back and forth, and it gets a bit awkward with the client, because then you're saying, well, we have to charge you more, and it wasn't ideal. So we put a lot of information because of that. There is also an element, if I'm honest, of wanting to show off how much work I've done on this proposal. To put it all in there, to go, look, see, we really understand what your project is, and we're really proud of the thinking that's gone into it. And it's also helpful to justify the estimated cost, because ultimately, they're going to pay for it. They want to see the work that goes into it. So we include all the detail, but to the business, to the other people, it's just noise, and it slows down the sign-off process. And it leads to a loss of momentum, and it presents the opportunity for other speed bumps to creep in along the way. This is a very sobering thing that I learned from a client once who said it offhand. I said, did you read the proposal? I was like, nah. Didn't even read the document. He basically scrolled right down to the end of it to look at the price. That's all he cared about. And everything that I'd done, the hard work that I'd put in, was completely overlooked. And that is a major problem because they're not looking at the value of what you're proposing. They're just looking at it and they're only assessing it based on the cost. And that's a major problem. So we need to make the proposals more interesting somehow. I didn't know how, but I did know that somehow we need to be able to prove our expertise and outline what we're going to deliver and make it more engaging. That was a challenge that we faced. And Rob and I had done a lot of research about how we improve our sales process. And this was a crucial part of that, right? How do we get people more excited? And we were avidly consuming audiobooks and podcasts about sales processes and reading articles and attending talks. But everything that we considered all boiled down to one thing. And it's a phrase that you may well have heard. Sell the sizzle, not the sausage. Has anyone heard of that phrase? Is that a very, very British phrase? Okay, good. Basically, it's saying that you appeal to your clients' emotions first, right? Grab their interest. We know that anything we present to them is not going to be the finished article, but something that gets their taste buds tingling, to help them see how something would look and picture how it would feel rather than just describing it to them. And that's basically what we were doing. You know, we weren't making them feel anything. As we discussed, we always started with the detail. So instead of a client seeing this, which is what we envisage, we know we can get there, we're showing the client this. It's just the detail. And it's a lot less appealing. In fact, we're not even selling them this. If we're honest, we're selling them the raw ingredients, but I couldn't find a stock image for that. So that's what we're stuck with, okay? How can we make clients more excited? We need to grab their attention. We need to make them as excited as we are to build this project. And once we've got that, then we can go into the detail. And this theory made a lot of sense to me because we looked at it, and most of the big projects that we'd won were projects where the stakeholder was the person signing off the budget. We've already got their investment, right? We already have their trust. Most of the big projects that we'd lost were where someone else had to sign it off once we'd worked with the project stakeholder. So how could we put all of this into practice? And I was mulling this over a lot without any real idea of how we're going to apply it to real life until one fateful day, the day that changed everything for me. Now, all of this was going on in my brain about the sales process until this day. We were still doing things as normal. I was having leads with new clients. It was great. And on this particular day, I had a consultation call with a particular client. Nothing out of the ordinary. It was an existing client. They mentioned they were thinking about an enhancement that they wanted. So I booked in a 1-hour consultation call to understand what they needed. And this is what they discussed, okay? It was a company that trains engineering apprentices. And once those apprentices are trained, they then recommend them to various job opportunities. So they've got two lots of clients. They've got the apprentices, and then they've got the people that want to have apprentices in their business. And so the current process was this. It was managed by the recruitment team. They would shortlist candidates in FileMaker. Then they would send a PDF summary of candidates via email, including their CV, and then they would have lots and lots of follow-up calls and emails. Have you read the CV? Have you received it? What do you think? That was going on a lot. Now, you, as problem solvers yourselves, will already see the pain points in this process. There's way too much admin time for the recruiters to have to do this. Not just sending CVs, but following up the responses. It was difficult to keep track of things centrally because all the emails they sent were from individual email addresses, not a central one. It's not very user-friendly for the client. And we actually found out as well, very often, once a company had got back and said, I'm really interested in this client, they'd already got a job because it took too long to get a response. So ultimately, it doesn't project a very professional, modern company. And we felt that this was holding them back. So we proposed a solution. And again, you are probably already thinking about what the solution would be. It's a web interface so that employers could log in, register their job opportunities. That would then come into FileMaker, and then the recruiters could add the shortlisted candidates to these jobs, which would then sync back up to the portal, and then they can view the CVs from there and accept or reject these candidates based on that. That seemed quite clear to me. I made my notes, and I had a call straight away afterwards, thinking that the next step at this point was probably a workshop. So I created the consultation call notes, which was already way quicker because I'm using ChatGPT, and I jumped on our weekly pipeline review call, which we have every week. It's Rob and I and the rest of the technical sales team talk about all the projects in the pipeline and discuss what we need to move forwards. And I mentioned the call that I just had, and we moved on. I moved on, and I discussed other projects in the pipeline. Rob wasn't. Rob sort of drifted off.
Rude.
He will do that sometimes. He's always only half listening to a call, and that's fine. He's got a lot of stuff to do. He's a bit like a meerkat in a lot of ways, that he'll just pop up when he senses danger, or we start talking about a budget. Then he'll get on with what he's doing. So that was all fine, and after about half an hour on this call, I wrapped up the call, and just before I was about to go, Rob said, "Have you got a minute, Mark?" And I went, "Yes, of course. You're my boss. I have to." So I stayed on the call, and Rob said, that lead that you talked about earlier, I've just been having a thought, and I've been playing around, and he showed me this. And my first thought was, well, that's just an off-the-shelf product that you found. Great, it's useful for our client, and maybe we can integrate FileMaker with that, and that solved the problem. But then he told me he'd literally just built it based on my notes from the call. So then he showed me more. Right? Now, this is exactly what my client needed from the web portal that I discussed with them just that morning. My notes had not specified anything about how the dashboard would need to look or what features it would need to have, but all of the functionality that I'd thought about was in there. There was even stuff that I'd assumed but not specified in there, like filters and sorts in there, inline comments. I'd not got that far. I just sort of, but here it was. And I don't know if you're like me, but when you speak to a client about a solution, I've got in my brain how it's going to look, or certainly the features that I've got. And seeing this sort of played out in real time was mind-blowing. And he was showing me exactly what I had in mind, purely based on the notes I'd made. And he'd done it while we were on a call. This was what I call my holy shit moment. And there have been a few holy shit moments in my FileMaker career. And, typically these have been inspired by new features in FileMaker. Multi-table files back in FileMaker 7 was a definite holy shit moment for me. It's like, finally, I can have multiple tables in a file. I don't have to have 96 file solutions anymore. FileMaker Go was another one. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. WebDirect was another one. REST API integration was huge. When that came out, it's like, just opens up the world of possibilities. Claris Connect, similar. These are all moments where the opportunities become boundless and endless. And this felt like it was a similar thing for me. This was a moment where it felt like this was an accelerator pad for helping win projects, because it single-handedly removed one of the blockers that I've been experiencing. It was a way to basically appeal to clients' emotions. Because when you show people what they're looking for, rather than just telling them, they're immediately hooked. And I could immediately see, they can see it from the brief that's in front of them, that we've understood the brief, because it's all laid out for them. And once you have that initial emotional investment, it's a lot easier to maintain momentum. So this was essentially the sizzle I've been looking for. So what was the client reaction? I could not wait to get the client back on the call and show them this. I'm emotionally invested as well, which makes it easier to pitch, right? When you're enthusiastic about a project, it's definitely easier to pitch. So I booked a call with them to show them. I'm keen to see their reaction. And when I presented it, they loved it. It was exactly what they had in mind. They started discussing additional features. I'm thinking, this is amazing, fantastic. However, they couldn't afford it, because they couldn't see the value. I will say, and I still maintain to this day, they were wrong. They didn't understand the value. Maybe it's on me for not being able to communicate that enough, but they weren't interested in taking it forward, despite the fact they really liked it. And I was disheartened by that. Rob was weirdly upbeat, I'll be honest. because he was encouraging us to look at the positives in all this. Because what would have taken 2 full days of work and probably months for the client to reach a decision, we turned around in 2 days and we had a response within a week, right? We're not always going to be able to influence our client's budget. But what we can do is influence how quickly it takes us to get that answer. And it saved us a lot of time and effort. So I was convinced we were onto something. Yes, we could use it to sell web portals, but also, that is because we've got a web team in-house at We Know Data, so they can do that, right? But we can also, given the FileMaker tools available to us and the incredible FileMaker developers that we work with, we can use these designs to apply to a FileMaker application too. Because this isn't, the solution isn't the end result. It's just an indication of what you could do. And the fact it's taken 2 hours is a huge selling point, because it's like, it's just giving them a flavor. Okay, so it's all very well telling you how this process works. How you feeling, Rob? Okay. And how quickly we're able to turn it around. But I know what you're like. You're a skeptical bunch. You want to see proof of this. So we need to show you. So Rob is going to show the demonstration now. It's probably worth just recapping the company overview. I can't remember the name, but Rob had it written down. That's fine. But it's a notary service who are going to look at online documents, send reminders to people to upload documents, and they can see the progress of a job throughout that process, and a list of properties that they're notarizing for. Is that correct? Okay.
We're close to that.
We're close to that, apparently. Okay, so Rob, do you want to...
Yeah, I need your...
You need to...
The challenge here is it immediately went to a language I don't read, so that was a really good start. I also don't know your business model. I was sort of hoping I'd randomly know the business model. Having done it for 20 years, I thought there was a good chance I would. But Mark, you picked the one person I don't, so thanks for that.
It proves he wasn't a plant, though, in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit in the audience for this bit.
You're going to sit in the audience. It's your app. Not as far as I would have liked. My version's actually in focus. Not entirely sure why that one isn't. Just try, see if I can get it in better focus.
Is that the company logo? Yeah. Nice. Okay.
It's like I told you to say that. Yeah, it's going to have to do, I'm afraid. So they should be your colors and your logo, and in a minute I'll show the way I did that. I'm just going to give you, I apologize. I probably butchered your business model here. But the user can sign in. They can see all their urgent reminders. They can see all active orders. So active orders are the properties, at least in my head. And they can click in and have a look at the risks that they've got for those properties, for that particular one, so where it's particularly urgent. They can click on an order, go and have a look at anything they have in there, and thanks to Mark taking longer than usual, they can also add a document. So they have a document type they can put in, the document name, and they are able to put the date and submit that order so it comes through. And they can then come back to their order, and they're also able, just again, to list all orders. So that was everything I could do in 31 minutes. Thank you. This whole process is so reliant on your ability to understand what you're trying to achieve, which is one of the things I think FileMaker developers are generally very good at, that sort of understanding of a business need and then putting it in. The hardest part is this first screen, because that sort of ties everything together, so you kind of got to get that right. And like I said, the first couple were, I don't know what language you speak, but I think they were in your language, not my language, so I was like, no, don't do that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is not using that example, but I've got some pre-prepared examples. So when I say pre-prepared, as in what I'm going to put in is prepared, not the actual screen. So if you give me 2 seconds, I will start a new demo app. Leave page. Unfortunately, I'm not on the fast Wi-Fi, which also doesn't help hugely. I'm just going to chuck a couple of prompts in quickly, and then I'll explain what you're looking at. So this is, I asked ChatGPT for ideas for what you could do for an Engage app, just to demo, to show you what we're doing. It came up with a conference quest, which I quite like. I'm just going to set those both going. Let's get those there. So all the prompts are pre-prepared. I'm more than happy to share the prompt library. On the left-hand side, this is UX Pilot. So this is, if you were in Stathis' talk earlier, he was using Figma Make. Figma Make is a lot better than it was the last time I looked at it. So what he did was really good. Previously, you couldn't get this level of detail in your screen designs, which is why we use UX Pilot. It is has anyone heard of UX Pilot before? Of course, you do have. And you. But what it is really, it's just a Figma plugin, except for they have an interface. It can do lots of other things. Down the left-hand side, I click the wireframe first. So this is this guy here that you can see here that it's created. I can then pick mobile or desktop. I'm then able to prompt a single screen on the left here, and I can also create a flow. I don't really like the flow. I like to do, like I said earlier, I like the base screen, and then I like to work from there. I find the flow sort of can create AI slop, to use the expression used earlier. I'm not currently using either of the more advanced design features at the bottom here. They do produce better results, but they're a touch slow for this demo. I would normally have them on. And while really running through this, they brought out a new feature, which is very tidy, that you can actually upload a JSON file with all your CSS in, and it will just consume it. So I will be adapting to that. But Mark very cleverly told me not to, and just to do what we know. So here's two screens that have come up. So I've got my wireframe on the left. The idea of this app is that I can scan different QR codes and gain points through the event. I get, for instance, double points if I meet someone who's come for the first time. I massively spiraled into this as I started doing it. Now, using tools like this, it's easy to get a very quick result. It's hard to, well, not hard. There are a few steps to make it a much better result. So one of the things that I would do is I'd go back to that settings in the top and I'd start filling out context. Now this does slow it down a little bit, and I am going to copy and paste it, but I will share the prompts that I use for it. What I'm putting in is context, so just giving it a bit more understanding of the project, what I'm trying to achieve. I'm also putting in a style guide, so it's one of the things that actually using an AI agent for works really well, is it will go and look at someone's website, and even if it's not coded particularly well, and I'm not naming anyone, it will work out what the actual color scheme is, not necessarily the colors in the code, and it will produce a style guide. And then the third thing I go for is data, because actually, well, because the companies we know data, so logically I would have, it's a very poor joke. So I'm going to paste in this enormous amount of, so this is all the data, and it's then going to go up to, it's quite a lot of data in this one because I had quite a lot from the Engage website. It's then going to go into style guide, and then it goes into context. So if I save that, this is, I suppose, the risky bit, is that all I'm going to do is exactly what I did the first time round, which is just run the exact same thing again, but with all that context in. So my hope is, certainly in every demo practice I've done, is that we should get back a branded version, and also the data being relevant data to the Engage event. While it does that, I'll explain this top bar here just allows you to go and do So the global is the whole one. The section is just a section, and so you can prompt just an area you want to prompt. The third one is new, so you can actually manually go in and edit the text if you want. I don't use that. I do that in Figma when I get to Figma. I'm able to see the code as well. So you see the code. It generates the code on the right. I also can do variations. So it's come up there. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So this is the version that it's created. It's EngageU colors, which I like. It has me. It's made up Emma Jacobs again, so I would have edited that. I don't know, it seems to like that person. I don't think they're actually an attendee, which is unfortunate. What it has done right, which it used to do wrong, is it would do the scores in the wrong order, which always bothered me. So now what I would do with a screen like this is I'd go, for instance, I might say, I like that screen, I'm happy with that screen. I can get it to do variations of that screen, so I can just say, make me 1 to 4 new variations of that. What I'd say is this is the one of all the ones you want to just really nail, because you're going to stem everything from that. So I want to make a login screen. The prompt can be much bigger. In fact, I'll use a slightly better one. But it's all the work you did before that then means that when you do this, you get better results. If you just do this straight off the bat with the small lines, you don't get very good results. So while it's doing that, I'm just going to chuck another one in. We'll do a leaderboard one. And I'm going to have a go at it, but it's been driving me mad getting the scanning QR one to... so if the user clicks scan QR, it should come up with a camera. I've been getting very varied results on that, which is slightly frustrating. So I've got my login screen, which is pretty good. I probably would do a logo for this, but given the amount of time we have, I will flick over to Figma, and I'm going to create a new design file for this demo. And so as I said, UX Pilot is a plugin. I have it pre-set up because I needed it for the last demo I just did. But you literally can just go to this little icon down here, search for UX Pilot, plug it in, and you do need to put your login details in when you get to that. Now, you can do everything I did in here. You can even do it the other way around. So if you have assets in Figma that you want UX Pilot to mimic, it does do that, and it does it really well. So that is a complete cheat because you're actually building all the components how you want them, and then it's just putting them together for you. I don't like using it in here. I don't find I get as good results. But I can then come in here and I can start retrieving results, but I have to save them first. So I go into here and I hit save, and I go into here and I hit save. I mean, that's not awful, but I still don't like it. But we're going to have to keep it for speed. Just going to do one more, see if I can get that. I have no idea about timing marks, so sorry about that.
You got about 4 minutes, I reckon.
This is where it doesn't connect. Hey. So you literally just click on them and it generates them. Let's see what it's doing over there. No, it's still going. Now we're waiting for 2 lots of AI. Awesome. Right. So it's just putting these in a list below. Has anyone used Figma before in here? Okay, a few. Use the prototype mode in Figma? Tidy, okay. Wonder if we'll get that last one. Come on. So all you do, and initially I thought you had to do something that was much harder, but it's not, is you go into the top corner. Let's just see if I can get that. No, we'll leave it. You go into the top corner and you click on prototype. What I thought you had to do for a long time is hit add here and then pick the screens, so you had to name them all. Turns out it's much easier than that. You just click on there and then you can just drag the little fella. And similarly, you can do that down here. And you can do, so you've got to make it go back. Otherwise, Mark tells you off.
I'm the one that has to demo it, Rob. I'm the one that has to demo it in front of a client.
Yeah. Feels like a you problem. The scroll thing's annoying, but it's if I'd said it properly the first time, it would have done it. All it does is makes it just come back to the top of the screen when you go through each one. Give me 2 seconds. It's possible. We'll chuck that in. See if I can get that across as well. That's not normally a good sign if it hasn't come through like that. I'll load it just so you can see it, because we are running out of time. Yeah, so exactly what I showed you earlier, just using this example. I can come in, I can sign in. This one's going to kill me, but you can then click through, scan. I'm going to need to cheat on that one. But I can also go through, should be able to go through. That's the UI. And I can see my leaderboard as well. And that is the end of the demo. Thank you.
Come on, you can do this. Come on.
It's 7:20, that's fine. That's why it's blurry.
Yeah. There we go. So we know that. Figma and UX Pilot, if anyone wants to scan that, it's going to be available in the download afterwards. So where are we now? How does that fit into what we do in our sales process and We Know Data? We've got a very different process now from the one that I described earlier. So obviously, once we've had our consultation call with a client, we've assessed that it's a project we want to take forward. Here's what happens. We have a 2-hour discovery call. We then get a transcript from the initial call and the discovery call, and we feed it into ChatGPT. I create a client proposal, which is tightly prompted, as I explained earlier. I also create a separate output for UX Pilot screen design brief for Rob to start working on. We then have an internal call to review and tweak screen designs where I ask for things that Rob gets annoyed about. Then we create a clickable demo in Figma. And then I present the clickable demo and the proposal to the client. They tend to get very excited, and then we sort of talk about next steps and we go from there. Very quick question about what's on the horizon, I guess, because that's, who knows is the answer to that. Well, since the reason that we weren't able to provide this talk to the amazing organizers of EngageU is because things keep changing in AI. All the time, I'm like, have you got it ready, Rob? He's like, no, I've just found a new thing. I'm going to try that out. So everything is evolving. If we do this talk in another 6 months' time, it will be a completely different thing. So it's just about keeping on top of things and getting, just making sure that we're aware of any new developments. Have you got anything that you know about that I don't? About this?
Several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd answer.
No, I mean, Figma Make's a perfect example, and the last time I tested Figma Make, it was a complete waste of time, but having seen what Stathis did, I'm going to have another look at Figma Make. I think the way I look at things is it has to solve a problem for me now, and I have to be able to train people to do it. So I quite like going away and working out how to do something, but I never really want to do it more than once if I can help it. And UX Pilot gave me that. and if something else gives me that, well, then we'll change. Yeah.
All right, I don't know if we've got time for questions. I mean, I'd love to take questions. If people want to hang out.
There's a 15-minute gap to the next
There's a 15-minute
slot.
gap, but we don't want to get in the way of the next person's. But if anyone's got any questions, we can try and whiz through them. If you want to leave, I won't think that's rude. You might want a coffee after all this. Question, Andy. Yeah.
Well, first thing, holy shit. It's more an observation, less of a question. I've just come out of the Better Forms presentation, and they've now got a plugin which will take direct from Figma into Better Forms. So that takes it from our point of view, takes it one step further. It's just an observation.
Did you see the questionnaire that Clarice put out not that long ago, where you got 100 points and you could spread them across different questions? One of the things was, could you connect Figma to Clarice FileMaker? And that, I mean, just imagine being able to just go and push a button and then maybe, I don't know, prompt script the rest of it and job's done, you know? Yeah.
Any other questions?
Did you tweak anything between? Sorry. Did you tweak anything between the briefing basically and your using Figma? I mean, did you add anything to the prompt? Did you add any additional?
I gave it his website, which is why it changed language on me. So it then understood what he was doing more easily. I still didn't necessarily, but I had to sort of work it out. The prompts I've used and used and used, and then adapted and sort of improved. So, and like I said, I'll put those in the slide deck. You can have them. They are step by step now, which is the way I think we should use AI. But yeah, there's nothing radical though.
Excuse me, I think I didn't understand what was the input to UX pilot. Was there a text input?
Yes. Yeah. So there's the screen input, and then there was the context input. So in the screen input, I'm putting what I want the screen to do. And in the context input, I put in context about the project. I put in a style guide, and I put in data. I find that above everything else, data is the best one to give it, because then when the screens come out, they're more logical.
And
sorry, go on.
Then were the outputs from ChatGPT?
So the outputs from ChatGPT were the things I put into UX Pilot.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I would say is don't try and actually design systems fully with this approach. You need to take a different one. We tried that, and it worked horribly, and we had to just start again.
Yeah, this is very much a sales tool to get people excited about what... Firstly, it conveys an understanding that you get what they're looking for, but so much quicker and so much more engaging than writing it all in detail. So from that perspective, it's exactly what we need. But when you get into the project in real detail, we've got so much more information when we start building that in the discovery phase. That's really important.
You need a lot more detail, just a lot more.
I want to know your thoughts about, are you not afraid that putting that clickable product in front of client, they could think that it's quite easy to build?
I explained that we built this in 2 hours. If we can achieve this in 2 hours, think of what we can do with a proper budget and proper discovery. So I don't sort of hide that. Are you saying that they expect it to be fully formed at that point?
My thing is, I'm afraid that with that kind of products that are amazing ones, and like lovable and all that stuff, people start to think that build something it's quite easy, and that putting that clickable products could affect the commercial deal. Okay. Because they could think, why that budget to build that, if you could do that, that it's clickable in 2 minutes.
It's a really good point.
So I think, amazingly, it's not good enough to make them feel like that, but it's good enough that they get what you're saying. So they see it and they go, oh, this is really cool. This is sort of what I'm thinking, yeah. But they can see it's not quite like, I'm sure you did when you saw what I did. You were like, oh, that looks nice, but it's not quite right. But I see they've got it across really quickly. So you don't think I can do it fast. What you know is they've kind of got the gist of what you're doing. So we haven't had that problem. I mean, we're generally doing them on projects that are fairly large, and we're then saying, look, we want sort of a solution design chunk, which is going to be our next talk, and we want 15% of that budget just to do that, which is where we go into all that detail to then later do screens again, but there's just so much more to it. Cool. Oh.
What was the difference in take rate between this and the old system?
That's a good question. I haven't actually got those numbers.
What's that?
In terms of how many projects we sell this way.
I don't think it's any higher, but there's a good side. It's much faster. So we get from this point to the client saying yes or no in a fraction of the man-hours, and that's valuable.
From your side, it's for sure much cheaper on the acquisition cost.
Yeah.
Also, though, I've found there's so much more client engagement. The clients are really keen to get working on it. And so it speeds up that whole process as well. The discovery phase is much more involved than it has been before. Very often we take it away and work out all the requirements and then deliver it to them, and it will just slow things down. But there's that enthusiasm that this creates that I don't think we'd have been able to achieve before.
Cool.
Thanks, guys. If you've got any questions, we'll be out there. Come and ask. Can I take